Long before food trucks were ever cool, this 1929 Chevrolet brought popcorn to the people. Hi there, Rick DeBrule with another chapter in the automotive evolution, and this is definitely going to be the tastiest chapter that we've done yet. Here once again at the Martin Auto Museum, a great collection of more than 170 cars and trucks. And this is just one of the interesting examples, a 1929 Chevrolet one-ton popcorn truck that they used to actually pop it in the back and sell it right out of those windows. We'll tell that full story in just a moment. But first, make sure you like and subscribe down below. And of course, in the comments, let me know what I got right. And most importantly, what I got wrong. There's always something I get wrong. Or if you have any interesting stories about buying popcorn from a truck, maybe just like this one. Now, here's the question. Should I start with the history of popcorn or Chevy trucks? All right, Chevy trucks first, then popcorn later. Long before there was a Silverado or an Apache or a C-Series, Chevy entered the truck market all the way back in 1918 with the launch of a one-ton, a simple rugged chassis built on car components, but built to carry heavier loads. Now, it marked the start of Chevy's commitment to the commercial vehicle world. In the 1920s, Chevrolet expanded its truck lineup. It offered models in various weight classes. Many of these trucks were sold as what they call bare chassis, had just the frame, the engine, and the front sheet metal. Buyers or third-party companies would add custom bodies depending upon the need for delivery vans or tow trucks or farm haulers. And that's exactly what happened with this truck right here. It was bought brand new as a bare chassis, and then it was immediately converted into a popcorn truck by a company called the Dunbar Popcorn Company. Now there's a website. It's called dunbarpopcorn.com. It has all kinds of great information about the company. And it tells me that Dunbar initially made popcorn poppers on carts. It appears that back in 1905, that's when they started mounting them on automobiles. Over the next 40 years, they built a variety of popcorn trucks. But they didn't build a huge number. In fact, it appears that there were only about 50 or so, or less than 50, that were actually built. Now, this particular truck was transformed from a potential freight hauler into a rolling concession stand. All right, time for a quick detour to talk about the history of popcorn. You know, it's been around for more than 5,000 years. In fact, ancient kernels were found in caves in New Mexico, showing it was enjoyed long before we had these fancy popcorn boxes. So why does it pop? Well, let's get technical. It's because the tough shell traps moisture, heat builds pressure until the kernel bursts, and we get an amazing transformation of texture and flavor. Early civilizations used popcorn for both food and for ceremonies. And by the 1800s, it was now being sold on the streets, and machines on hand carts and horse-drawn carts in the 1890s made it even more widely available. Popcorn became a movie theater staple during the Great Depression because it was fairly inexpensive and flavorful. And of course, popcorn found new life with microwave popcorn in the 1980s. But enough about the popcorn. Let's talk about popcorn trucks. You know, the idea of mobile popcorn and a mobile popcorn popper first appeared back in the late 1800s. It was around the same time as the invention of the popcorn machine. Now, back then, vendors were using horse-drawn wagons equipped with steam-powered poppers to make and sell popcorn on the go. Now, they were a pretty common sight wherever you would go, wherever there was fun. You know, there would be fairs, parks, city streets. Crowd were drawn both to the sound of the popping and the smell, most importantly. And over time, the horse-drawn wagons, well, they gave way to the motorized trucks. Let's take a closer look at our 1929 Chevrolet one-ton truck that's been converted into this popcorn truck. And the restoration of this is absolutely beautiful. It was done by a gentleman by the name of John Mueller. Not sure when, at least 25 years ago. I see some awards from 2000. And this was owned by his wife, Beverly's family, the Thompson family, and they used it as a popcorn truck, I think, since it was brand new. You can see the leaf suspension up front, which was sufficient to make sure that this had a reasonable ride and kept everything from breaking in the back. No spoked wheels, no wooden spoked wheels. We had stamped steel wheels. This is the section that would come from the factory. It would come with this hood. We'll talk about the engine under there in just a bit, with the fenders that went all the way back. And then that was the section that would be built by various coach builders depending upon the need. This particular one, as I mentioned, has been restored, but they used the original model as the base for this. So I'm not sure whether any of the wood is original, but it's definitely done exactly the way the Dunbar Company would have done it a long time ago. And there, in fact, we see a Dunbar plate and a serial number 3314 underneath. We'll go inside in just a moment, but give you a brief view as to what it looks like inside. Remember, back in those days, depot hacks were pretty common. Those were the station wagons of their day, and they were used making wood for the frame. So using wood was very, very common. It was the easiest way to make something complex, especially if you were going to be doing it on a limited scale. This is what's impressive about this thing. Look at this big popper hanging off the back and on the side where everybody could see exactly what was going on. We'll talk more about how it operates in just a moment, but you can see that it definitely gets everybody's attention. This is the popcorn popper, and I believe this is for roasting peanuts. In fact, that's what the sign says right below it, for roasting peanuts. Now, one thing I do want to point out, if I get back far enough, notice that they have added an extension onto the top of the body. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, it gives the person operating inside a little more headroom. And then you'll also notice, if I can get up here, that it's also got these little windows. So, you know, when you think about it, you're popping popcorn in there, you're roasting peanuts, it's getting pretty hot. So having some windows that could open to let out that hot air was probably pretty important. I love that sign, best by test, and it made it really clear, buttered popcorn is exactly what you are going to be getting. Once again, really just another truck in so many different ways, but boy, what this one was done up to be in its lifetime is great. And as I mentioned, he won some prizes for the restoration of this. There's a national first prize right there from 2000. There's another one on the other side. By the way, real quickly, I want to show this is a 1938 Chevrolet truck that we have here at the museum. That's a topic for a future video, but notice the way the grille comes out, the styling from 1938. That's less than a decade after this truck right here. Notice how square and upright everything is. So in just a decade, things are going to change radically. But I can guarantee you, when that newer truck was on the road, this one was still popping popcorn at fairs and parks and any place people wanted to have a good time. Well, normally when I step inside a car or a truck, it's to talk about the driving experience. But in reality, the driving experience in this truck was really secondary to what was happening back here, this mobile food truck of its day. The driving experience was pretty simple. Big upright steering wheel, gauges in the center, a very simple seat. And underneath that seat, that is where they have the gas tank. So, not particularly safe for its day, but once again, it worked. Moving a little bit closer in here, of course, we have our window on this side. This is where somebody would stand and sell their goods. Underneath, we've got a display case where they could put either bags of popcorn, bags of peanuts, or maybe licorice. Who knows what they were selling. Over here, this is the peanut roaster. This would rotate. You'd put peanuts in there. It would rotate and roast them with the steam engine that powered that. And right here, well, this is where you could put your roasted peanuts after they were finished. Plenty of drawers down below to keep all the extra things you'd need, like bags or any other extra supplies. And this was really important. This was the cash register. This is where you'd put your money after you made your big sale. Now, as we move back, it gets a lot more complicated. Well, this was the heart of the operation from a popcorn and peanut perspective. It's a 1/2 horsepower steam engine that managed to drive the entire process back here. In fact, you see there's a small drive shaft. This drive shaft goes all the way over and connects up over there, and that's what powers the popcorn making side of all this. I have to admit, I don't know an awful lot about how this works. I'm going to guess that this was the heater down here. This is where it created the temperature necessary to pop the popcorn. Probably put the popcorn in right here. And then once it was popped, what you would do is you would rotate these, and this is how you would scoop it out, and it would land down here, and that's of course where you would scoop your bags of popcorn. This is where it gets really complicated. Look at this manifold system that they've created to handle all of the pressure necessary and the temperatures necessary to keep that popcorn popping. And by the way, I love in the restoration how they've used an old bicycle pump to maintain the air pressure necessary. Once again, I have to admit, I know a bunch about cars, know nothing about popcorn poppers. I'm sure somebody can probably give me a lot more information about how this works in the comments down below. Please do that, because I'd love to know how all of this works, because just coming up with this concept of this small steam engine to power all this was just so ingenious. Back in 1928, it was 4-cylinder engines that ruled the day. But in 1929, Chevrolet broke through with something bigger and bolder, a six-cylinder engine. Doesn't sound like much today, but it was big back then. Chevy offered a six-cylinder engine at a four-cylinder price. It was known as the Stovebolt 6. It gave buyers smoother performance and better torque without a huge jump in cost. That was really important. And where the four-cylinder Chevy put out about 35 horsepower, this six-cylinder bumped that up to 46 horsepower. But what made this engine unique in terms of its design wasn't just the fact that it had six cylinders. It was how Chevrolet put it together. This engine features an overhead valve, which allows for more effective airflow and efficiency compared to that common flathead engine. It was also built with simplicity in mind. It uses cast iron construction. It's got slotted bolts, these things right here, that give it the Stovebolt name. Importantly, Chevrolet priced it in the car world very competitively. In fact, their big advertisement said it was a 6 for the price of a 4. That strategy helped to attract buyers looking for better performance without spending more money. This 1929 engine really helped Chevrolet rise to the top of the charts, and it laid the groundwork for a lot of future success. And for this truck right here, the Chevy 1-ton from 1929, it was the perfect engine at the perfect time. Imagine that, a good bump up in torque, which this truck needed, good bump up in horsepower, which this truck needed, and this was the right engine to keep this truck running for an awful long time. Well, there's no question that we still love our popcorn, but the reality is we probably take it for granted. I mean, let's face it, you want some popcorn? Throw it in the microwave, or maybe just go down to the movie theater, drive down in your air-conditioned car. But think how exciting it was back in 1929 or the early 30s when this truck was brand new, and you'd go to an amusement park or maybe a county fair, or better yet, it would actually drive through your neighborhood. And from your window, you could smell the popcorn popping. You were going to spend a whole nickel on a bag, but it was worth every penny to get that gourmet flavor. Think of this as the original gourmet food truck. And we have to thank John and Beverly Mueller for making sure that this was restored to its original condition so that we could take a look at it today the way it looked when it was brand new. You know, this is an interesting chapter in the automotive evolution because it's not just the car underneath, it's how this affected culture in its day. What people were thinking when they lined up here at this window to buy that popcorn almost 100 years ago. And once again, it's just another interesting chapter here at the Martin Auto Museum.